Hey guys, it's Eco. Hope you're all doing well, and today I'm going to be showing you guys how to play Bo in Brawl Stars. For all my how to play guides, I'm giving you a 4-part guide. I'll be telling you who Bo is, what his kit is, how to use his kit, and some pro tips. If you want to see some of those pro tips, stick around to the end of the video. So let's get started with part 1. Who is Bo? In order to master a brawler, we must know who he is. So, who is Bo? Bo was the greatest eagle fighter there was in the tribes. Being the best bowman, he was blessed by the spirits or the ancestors of his tribe. His mission was to help fight for peace and bring glory to his tribe and make his ancestors proud. In his voice lines, he also seems to have extraordinary powers, but that's just a rumor. In the game, Bo is a trophy road brawler, which means he can be unlocked at 3,000 trophies in-game. Part 2. Bo's kit. In order to master a brawler, we must know his kit. So, what are his abilities? Bo is a fairly tanky brawler, coming in at 5,040 health at max level, which is the same as Shelly and Jean. On a team, Bo serves as a flanker. His abilities are great for funneling enemy brawlers into good positions to pick people off, as we'll see later. Bo's main attack is called ecoIII. Basically, it launches 3 arrows from left to right, but the important thing to note is that these arrows are staggered, not shot simultaneously. Currently in the game, a max level Bo deals 728 damage per arrow, which means if you hit all 3 arrows on an enemy with 1 ammo, Bo can deal 2,184 damage. If you unload all 3 ammo slots on an enemy and you manage to hit all your shots, Bo can burst down brawlers easily with a damage total of 6,552 damage, which is a lot. Furthermore, Bo has a reload speed of 1.7 seconds per ammo, which according to Brawl Stars is a reload speed of normal. Now moving on to Bo's ultimate, called Catch a Fox. What this does is it allows Bo to throw 3 mines that explode in a radius. They're all set off 1.15 seconds after an enemy walks on them, which means that there's quite a delay for the bombs to go off. These bombs each deal 2,016 damage each, but most of the time you're not going to be able to get all 3 bombs to deal damage to your opponent. Besides from dealing damage, Bo's super mines also knock back brawlers, and if you have the star power, it can stun enemies too. But we'll talk about that later. The main power about these mines is that these mines disappear from your enemy's sight. That's what makes this super so good. The fact that enemies cannot see your mines. Of course, your mines will be highlighted in blue for you to see in a very transparent fashion. And it's also very important to note, even if you were playing Bo, you cannot see enemy player Bo's mines. Next up, we have Bo's gadget. Bo's gadget is called Super Totem, which calls upon the spirits of the gods and charges the supers of himself and his allies. Now, this totem has a really small area of effect and it literally has no health. So you're going to want to place this thing somewhere safe to charge supers. Now moving on to Bo's star powers. The first one is called Circling Eagle, and what this allows Bo to do is to see people in bushes for an extra 5 tile radius, which is extremely broken if you're playing on a map with a ton of bushes like Snake Prairie. This is good for fighting against campers because you can see them without getting too close. Now his second star power is called Snare a Bear, and I honestly think this is one of the most broken star powers in the game. This passive allows Bo's mines to stun enemy brawlers for 2 seconds. While the brawler is stunned, they cannot attack or move, exactly the same as Frank's super's effect, allowing you and your teammates to deal massive damage to the stunned brawler. Part 3. How to use Bo effectively. In order to master a brawler, we must know how to use his abilities properly. So, how do we use Bo? Typically, Bo is a neutral in between good DPS and tanky health. What I mean by this is when people see a Bo, they typically don't want to get in close range encounters with him, particularly because of his DPS capabilities. For Bo's attack, if you're facing a high health brawler, then you typically want to try and avoid getting into close combat with them. If you're facing a DPS brawler, then you want to find cover behind a wall and shoot your arrows to try and deal chip damage to charge your super. Just make sure when you do this, you don't peek in a predictable pattern or else you're going to get sniped by a Piper from max distance and you don't want that to happen. When using Bo's super, remember that his super is used to attack offensively. When using it, remember where your mines are and what they serve as a purpose. This super is definitely not a choke super, also known as a super that you spam when you're in an intense situation. When using the super offensively, remember that the super's long time to go off does allow an enemy brawler to run away, so remember your positioning of the super in mind. When you're using his gadget, put it in a secure spot, like a place you would put a Mr. P Porter spawner or Pam's health bot. Remember, one slot of ammo from literally any brawler will destroy your super totem, so keep positioning of the totem in mind so it's secure, also accessible by you and your teammates. Part 4. Pro Tips. In order to master a brawler, you'll need to learn all the tips and pro tricks. So here are 5 pro tips to take your gameplay to the next level. Number 1. Because your arrows are staggered, you want to use this movement trick to make your arrows super accurate. You want to move up when you're shooting right to line up all your arrows because they shoot left to right, as you can see in the background clip. Alternatively, you can move down when shooting right to spread your arrows out, covering a wide area. This is very useful for keeping enemies back. This slight movement trick is often overlooked, but when used properly, you can hit all 3 arrows very easily on a target. Number 2. If you can successfully use the first tip, this tip will benefit you greatly. As you can see in the background clip, when you use the first trick by utilizing the movement and staggered shots of Bo's attack, the arrows launch in a slight curve. You can abuse this mechanic by shooting around walls while barely peeking. If you can master this strategy, then peeking during long range fights will become super easy and also prevent you from taking as much damage as you would have if you didn't apply this trick. Number 3. Use your super as a zoning tool. Brawlers that see you shoot your mines will avoid that particular spot. Use this to your advantage. During gem grabs, shoot your mines over the gem hole or onto a funnel to prevent enemies from reaching the gems. In Showdown, plug up a passage and create a funnel to easily pick out brawlers. Bo's super is easily the best part about his kit, and abusing it will allow you to win so many more fights. Number 4. Remember that your super and gadget disappear after launching a second one. When you deploy one super, charge up another, and use the second one, the first set of mines will disappear. This means that whatever your first super was doing before, like maybe it was covering up gem hole or zoning enemies out of funnels, remember that they will also disappear after you put down a second one. And also don't forget, the same also applies to both the super and the gadget. Number 5. This tip is probably the most important tip, and this is to remember that the best way to improve at using a brawler is to actually play them. If you want to get good at using Bo, then use him in the game. If you want to win more with Bo, you have to use him. Sitting around watching YouTube videos on tips and tricks won't instantly upgrade your skill with a brawler. Using him live in a game will. Sure, maybe learning 1 or 2 tricks about a brawler will help, but at the end of the day, you won't get better at using a brawler if you don't even use him. Trust me, the more you play with Bo, the faster you'll improve at using him. Okay guys, that wraps up the video for today. If you enjoyed this how to play Bo guide, then leave a like down below and subscribe to my channel for more Brawl Stars content like this if you haven't already. That's it from me, and I'll see you all in the next video.